Hello, everyone. My name is Starojdetsky. This is my first presentation at Apex Hours. Thanks, Amit, for having me. And the topic of the presentation is how to achieve more under pressure. Before we jump into this presentation, I would just want to talk briefly about the agenda, and then I will explain a bit about myself, about my journey, and why I would like to share my experience in this technique. So first of all, this is the presentation edition of CTA style. I completed my journey in July this year, and I know that I've experienced a lot of challenges during my journey. I wanted to share some of the techniques that helped me to pass my CTA in the first go. So I briefly touch on the topic, what is CTA about, and what are the benefits of achieving the CTA credentials, because some of you consider probably starting this journey, some of you are on this journey, but as a person that already passed the CTA, it is good to know what to expect after you pass it, and it's good to know what to expect during the preparation. Next, I would like to speak about how to achieve these credentials, why the best of the architects fail the CTA journey the first time they try, usually, how to deal with procrastination during the CTA journey, and I would like to touch upon the question if you can succeed without having a strict system on that journey. And last but not least, the most important part would be what to do when the pressure is high and how not to crack during the exam itself, or any other challenges that you have in your life, not specifically CTA, but what are the techniques that you can try to apply for those situations. So to myself, I'm working the Salesforce ecosystem for the last 5 years. From my educational background, I studied data scientist and artificial intelligence. I love to work with data. I love to work on challenges of digital transformations. And I completed my CTA prerequisites 2019, and I spent the last 1.5 years just achieving this one cert. So my journey took me around 1.5 years and between 1,200 and 1,600 hours of concentrated work. And I would like to speak about the challenges I was faced during this journey, especially on the mental level and on the level of dealing with the pressure, dealing with setbacks, because most of the pressures and setbacks are coming from the inner of every individual. And this is especially applicable for CTA candidates. Also in my career, I used to do archery, so I have around 20 years of experience doing archery. I've been quite successful on the national and international level, and I've been working also as archery trainer. I coached more than 1,000 students in my classes. Some of those students are really great now, so I can tell from my experience and the experience of my students that the challenges that high achievers in the sport face are very similar to those that people during the CTA journey are facing. And during my time in the sport, I consistently delivered less of an optimal performance during my challenges during the tournament rather than in training. So I was better in training, and then when the due day came, I would be 20 to 25% less performant than on the training day. So I struggled with this type of pressure in dealing with it for, I don't know, probably 10 years before I found the technique that allowed me to be better during the tournament that I was during the training. So to my surprise, I was able to be better, to deliver better scores during the tournament than on the day of training before the tournament. And when I discovered those techniques, those toolbox that helped me in sport, I applied some of the techniques in my CTA journey, and I think it helped me tremendously to succeed on my first try, and therefore I would like to share it with you. But before we start, you need to know what to expect on your journey. So let's speak briefly about what a CTA exam about. And most of you have seen this before. So I took that from the CTA Trailhead article, the white paper. So Salesforce describes technical architects and certified technical architects as personalities that are big picture thinkers, in-depth problem solvers, that design systems, and there are trusted digital advisors. So, that is all good, but if you are starting the journey and you think of yourself that you are not quite a big picture thinker, but maybe a medium picture thinker at the moment, how do you make this leap to big picture thinker? How do you make that transition to someone that would be worth a CTA title? And on another article, Salesforce would provide a bit of a better explanation of what is a CTA exam about actually. So first of all, technical architects say they are trusted advisors on executive level, and it's a very important distinguishing between the just being in the projects or working with C-level personalities. Those who are working on technical architect level, they need to support business transformation, both in functional, platform, and integration level. Communication and trade-offs are part of their job, and they are responsible for the quality and success of the project as a whole. So to summarize, what is CTA about? First of all, it is the ability to consider the solution end-to-end. And communicate this solution end-to-end to C-level, because a C-level audience, first of all, don't have much time. You need to be to the point, you need to speak to the point, you need to make your statement clear, you need to consider all pros and cons, and you need to consider the solution end-to-end. They don't expect answers to a question, they expect answers to the business challenges that you need to deliver. Secondly, you need to solve the business challenge of a client, of a specific client, a specific scenario. If, let's say, you worked on specific industry for a long time and you would apply similar solutions from your past experience to the new client, it might not work. You need to listen to the client needs and deliver project success that will help client and their business, because that's ultimately what is CTA for, right? They are not just working on requirements again, but they solve business challenges. Also, we need to think about the user experience. So Salesforce shines in this piece. It's easy to configure, it's easy to maintain, and has a great user experience. If you would, on the day of the exam, if you would deliver a solution that would work, it would be a workable solution, doable solution, but it would be suboptimal from the realization standpoint or suboptimal from the user experience afterwards, you will face in the real world considerable challenges with adopting the solution and training the users. And on the exam date, you might pass the solution section of the CTA exam, but you most probably will fail many of other sections because your solution will not provide the optimal user experience. You need to know Salesforce products, best practices, and more specifically limitations and trade-offs, especially if you use different solutions as a pack. For example, if you introduce Salesforce and Marketing Cloud, you need to know how those two solutions will be set up, will be delivered, and also what are the challenges to configure the solutions end-to-end, and what dependencies you would introduce by introducing new solutions. So before you introduce a solution, you need to make sure that this solution will work for the client. And lastly, what we forget a lot about, even so most of the candidates are very well prepared for the exam and are able to answer the questions in the day-to-day life or in the preparation, during the preparation. We are talking about an exam that would take somewhere between 7.5 and 8 hours and you need to consistently deliver your best performance during this time. So on the day of the exam, you don't have, you don't have a coffee break every half an hour. You cannot just grab a drink every hour. You cannot take a break and refresh your mind. You need to be able to deliver your best performance end to end throughout the 7 hours. And this is where I see potential to improve for a lot of candidates. And this is where I want to share my experience that might help. It's my individual experience, but might help some of you. Before we start talking about the technique specifically, I'd like to also speak what a CTA exam not about. So because I saw some of the people failing because they didn't understand what is, what should not be included in your CTA preparation and your CTA journey. So first of all, your ability to code and development excellence, even so it's really important part of the Salesforce projects and Salesforce journey. It might be not obsolete, but it might be not the main focus during your CTA preparation. You're preparing for the brass of the solution and for the solution end to end. It's not about delivering the right estimate for exact requirement. It's about knowing how to solve the requirements optimally. Secondly, your understanding of cross-platform challenges will not be scored in the exam. So let's say you will definitely have different platforms in your solution, because nowadays we speak about clients, especially on the enterprise level, that have many different solutions. Usually it would involve Amazon, AWS services, Azure, Oracle, Heroku, potentially Salesforce. So you will be scored on the understanding of Salesforce and how Salesforce would integrate to those solutions, but not specifically on the challenges to set up an app on AWS, or what is the private sphere on AWS, etc. So you need to be mindful of that, not to waste also too much time talking about those platforms in your solution. Also, your unique real-life experience might not always be your best friend, because you might have a lot of experience, and your experience with a product might not be optimal for many reasons. You might be biased because you don't have the right team, the right architecture, the right client, etc., etc., etc. So if you would apply your real-life experience, it is good to have it, but if in doubt, always consider checking the Salesforce white papers. And in your CTA preparation, you would check around between 40 and 60 white papers. Some of them, like integration white paper, you would need to learn almost by heart. And if you really had different experience with platform events, for example, in real life, but it is optimal solution, you should go by that, because also it's not about what you had previously, but it's also what the future will look like. And you deliver a solution for a client for many years ahead. And we need to consider the techniques that will be provided to the clients moving forward. Good example is flow versus workflow versus process builder. Those two solutions will be deprecated shortly, the last one, process builder and workflow, but the architects stopped advising to use them some time ago. So they need to plan for the future to use flow moving forward, because that will be the technology that Salesforce will invest in. And also your experience in pre-sales and sales, even so it's really good experience because you will get to talk to C-level, but in terms of offering the right mix of technology for the client, it might be counterproductive, because you might not deliver the right solution. In pre-sales and sales, typically, if you see a need for a product that would fulfill 60 to 80% of client needs, you would offer it, because it's a good fit. During the CTA exam, you need to make sure that this product will not introduce any technical debt. It will be easy to maintain and will be future-proofed. And you have to have a rate of 80 and more percent, a fit rate for the client needs. So let's talk about the benefits of achieving the CTA credentials, because if you haven't started the journey, or if you're at the beginning of the journey, you need to start yourself why I'm doing this or why I consider doing this, to make sure that you're fully aware of anything that will be on your way, the challenges, but also the benefits that will work for you moving forward. And some of you might be thinking that reasons for CTA might be better pay, salary, and position, or self-fulfillment. For better pay and salary or position, I can say, right, there is a correlation that people that pass CTA might be promoted more easily to higher positions, or might get a little bit better pay than the people without CTA in technical architect roles. Also for self-fulfillment, some of the candidates, they have 30+ certifications. They want to crack the CTA credentials quickly to have a full house, or have some justification for the self-worth, self-value. I don't recommend to do Salesforce CTA for these reasons. The reason is simple. It's not the bad reason. It's a very good reason. But if you would aim for a better pay and salary, consider that if you put 1,000+ hours into this goal, plus you need to have some financial cost of doing this, plus you have no certainty that you will pass the CTA. There is no official statistics, but unofficially 3 out of 4 candidates would fail the exam. Think about the risks, and if you would have this time and you would aim for better salary or better pay, or just to make money, consider investing your time somewhere else. For once, and for the other, if you have just these reasons in mind, the responsibility and the pressure to achieve that goal and to have this exam passed perfectly, execution on the exam day will be very costly for you, because the whole weight of the preparation, the whole weight of the financial burden will be pressuring you on the exam day, and you will feel you need to deal with the pressure and with a challenging exam scenario. It will be just much harder for you to pass if you have these reasons in mind. The reasons that I think you have to consider when starting the CTA journey is that it is a journey, and journey stays before the CTA. Right, so the journey never ends on a specific day. The journey doesn't end also on the CTA day. It might end in the future. It might end before, if you don't even came to the point when you tried yourself in the CTA exam. But the point is, you don't have this weight of the journey shifted to one day. You have the weight of the journey spread across different days, and you have real benefits from the journey itself, not from the passing, but from being in the journey. Because in the journey, you will meet new friends, and I met really great people. And if I would fail and need to repeat everything again, I would do this, every time I would do this, because the people that I spent time with, my prep time, my spare time, was a group of very talented people. I woke up early. I learned how to wake up around 5:30 to have my first call with my learning group around 7. I prepared around 7, and then I have a 7, 8, 2 p.m. and my day was structured around talking about the architectural challenges with very intelligent people, and learn from them, and also share my knowledge and grow from it. And also, very important point, you will grow as a better architect. That should be there is no question when you start the journey. At the end of the journey, however it will end, you will be a better architect. But you need to also learn how to fail, because throughout the journey, you will have multiple reasons to question your knowledge and question your previous experience. And that's how it should be. So take it as with the gratitude, and take it as part of your journey and as part of the benefits that the CTA journey will bring. Now, let's talk briefly about my observation is that one of the best architects in the ecosystem that I've worked with have much higher chances of failing the CTA exam. Even so, if you would work with them, you would think, wow, this person should be a CTA long time ago. You know, they operate on the CTA level, but they fail. Why it's happening? So I want to touch upon this point because I know great architects that fail at their exam, and I want to elaborate on the reasons, and I want to help one of the best architects out there to maybe not do the same mistake on their journey. So the reasons for failing are, first of all, as we spoke about before, the wrong goals and targets for the exam. Sometimes people don't know what the exam is about, especially on the communication part. They skip or the miscommunication part, especially the part that it needs to be communicated on the C level. They go too much into detailing, too much into the solution because they solve mostly on the technical level. And they forget that the development excellence is not actually something that would be evaluated for this exam. So you need to know what is the CTA exam about, and also what are the goals and targets, especially if you have a lot of achievement in Salesforce ecosystem. If you want to get this exam for the self-fulfillment purpose, because someone, you know, because you kind of think for yourself, you should be a CTA, so I'll go and do it. You need to make an educated decision about it, that you will spend this time, not just try to achieve it based on your previous experience. Second point is the previous experience and a lot of experience can hinder you doing the mistakes during the preparation. So too much self-confidence might be bad friend during the preparation. You need to be very confident on the exam date. You don't have a chance to doubt your solution, because you are, remember, you're solving for a C level, and you cannot just say, okay, I'm not sure, I don't know, right? Because it will not be playing nicely into your overall solution. So you need to have a lot of self-confidence, but during the preparation, you need to question every bit of your knowledge to be better and grow in every bit of your Salesforce portfolio. I talk about this. We already know what CTA exam is about. Another point is a lot of technical people would get into analysis paralysis when they see a lot of different requirements. And remember, we are talking about 13 to 14 pages scenario that you need to solve in 3 to 3.5 hours for the prep time, and you have much more preparation to be done and to consider. If you get into analysis of every requirement in depth, you will lose time. You will not be able to solve it on time, and you will get panicked. You will get under pressure. You need to know some things almost on the intuitive level or on the reflex level, that you would, you don't think, you just know that it's the right solution. And last points, two last points that we are talking about, handling the pressure. I think around 20% of your preparation can be affected if you will not be able to handle the pressure on the exam day. So you will perform less than optimal. And very important, you need to make your mistakes along the way. Touches upon the self-confidence and touches upon knowing that you are here to have a safe place, safe space to make mistakes, to play with different assumptions, and then maybe find out something that no one knows, but also getting the knowledge from the group of people and getting the collective knowledge and put that above your individual knowledge is very, very important. And also on these mistakes, a lot of people, when they start the journey, they would be like, okay, I try to do this, and then I get hit by something, like some obvious mistake that I do, and then I stop, right? I quit. I don't want to do this anymore, because failing and making mistakes, it hurts. It hurts your self-confidence, it hurts your self-value. You need to deal with that. Well, the real journey should be that you do mistakes a lot of times, and it is almost like this, right? So you do mistake by mistake by mistake by mistake by mistake. By the time you complete your CTA journey, you did so many mistakes that there are no mistakes left almost, right? You know that, okay, they cannot fail me on this because I already did this mistake. I cannot be failed on this part because I already did this mistake. And we consider this as a solution inside the group. And during the preparation, remember, there is no bad solution. There is no bad assumption. You can try and experiment with every assumption, even if your personal experience would tell you otherwise, because there is no, every 3 months we have a new release and we have new ways that we will get from Salesforce with every release to solve the common problems, especially in the security domain. So be mindful about this, do your mistakes, repeat your mistakes, and grow. Now, the question of procrastination is a very big topic, because I'm a big procrastinator. I procrastinated on this presentation, for example, and I procrastinated on a lot of things in life. And important thing is to remember why you procrastinate, and not just say, okay, it shouldn't be done or it shouldn't be this way. You have to understand the reasons why we procrastinate and what how to deal with that. So first of all, procrastination is a neurotic behavior that is unnatural for healthy individuals. So most of the times, procrastination is unnatural and counterproductive. But also, many times we procrastinate because it makes sense, because we expect the problem to go away. Even so, the chances are high that the problem will persist in the future. There is a small chance that the problem will go away if you are faced with a challenging technical task at work. Chances are that business side of the project will change their mind and will switch to a different solution. So a lot of time it happens. Even so, it's unlikely, and you will get in trouble if you will not deal with that task. But you might hope that this task will be taken away from you just by waiting and sitting it out. Secondly, procrastination protects our ego and self-worth, because we can always say that you could do better if you would have enough time to complete this task. Let's take an example of this challenging task. You need to complete some work. It is technically challenging. You know that you need to have at least 2 weeks of time for comfortably completing the work, but you just take 1 week. You complete it on time, most probably, but it's less than ideal, or it's less than you can do. And it's because you have a buffer to say, okay, if I would have the full time frame of 2 weeks, I would do this thing better. But truth is that you might not get the chance to shine on full capacity if you never try yourself out for the full time, right? So this is a vicious cycle. You just never really, you always hope that you would be better, but you never know how good you are because you never have a chance to work on the full time. And third most important reason why we procrastinate is sometimes we are just so tired physically and mentally from our day-to-day work, from our challenges in life, that even so we have some time to push ourselves for next achievement, next big thing in life, but your mind and body would tell you, no, I would rather not do that before I suffer some illness or some burnout. So that's a safety mechanism inside us that would prevent us from stressing ourselves above the limit. So you need to watch for those reasons and ask yourself, okay, do I have an energy? Yes. If I do have an energy, why I'm waiting? Am I waiting because I want to wait for the problem to go away and want to deal with it at all? Or I'm waiting because I'm afraid that some people would evaluate my performance based on this task, and I don't want to disappoint them. So I want to have that buffer to tell that I didn't have enough time. So now when we discuss about why we procrastinate, let's talk about how we can deal with that. Some of these techniques I applied in my sport life, but also during the CTA preparation. One of the things that I noticed, especially if you have a task as monumental as a CTA, when you have to plan for more than a year or more than 1,000 hours of work, is that you would start planning. You would plan how you spend this time, how you would deal with this week's, this week I do this, next week I do that. And it's good to have a plan, but it's important to start executing the plan before you perfection the plan itself. So planning is one thing, but moving forward will open for you new perspectives, new horizons. And when you move forward, you can also adjust your plan. And usually the best plan, even if it's been planned for a year, will need some rework after 2 to 3 weeks. I'm talking from my personal experience. So how to stop planning is one thing is to deliver your worst solution in the shortest amount of time, or deliver purposely not ideal solution, but deliver it quickly. So for example, this presentation, 70% of the content I delivered in under 45 minutes. Then it took me around 4 to 5 hours to perfection this last bit. But I knew that most of my productive work has been done when I tried to focus just for 30 to 45 minutes on some work where I was creative and I had no distraction. And I recommend you to try to do this and not aim for perfection. Also, you need to accept the worst possible outcome if you have a monumental task in front of you. So there was a guy called Chinggis Khan, and some consider him a good guy, some consider him a bad guy. But one thing is true, this guy had a lot of energy in his life, and he did a lot of things for good or for bad. And according to him, he recommended not be afraid when you do things. And if you are afraid, don't even start doing this. So ask yourself, am I afraid to take the CTA journey? If yes, is the answer. Don't start on it because you will be afraid throughout the journey. But if you already started the journey, don't question your premises and reasons, because then you might be afraid and then you might fail. So just do it is the motto. And this motto is older than you can think. Also, importantly is to question how you speak to yourself when you have to motivate yourself to go and do the task. It can be any small task, but it can be also a big task. For me, usually it was a big task of achieving CTA. Like I had some couple of hours of my free time on the weekend, and I would tell to myself, okay, you have to go and spend some time learning this. You have to go and spend some time trying that. If you speak to yourself in the language of you have tos, then some part of yourself is telling you that I have to, but I don't want to. So I need to be forced by myself to go and do something. So you have this internal conflict where you need to convince a part of yourself that you have to do something that this part is not willing to do. It's like parent-child relationship inside one person. Instead, you have to become a whole. You have to become one person and make a decision. You have to make a decision then, okay, instead of spending the whole Saturday weekend working on something really important that might bring you benefits 3, 4, 5 months down the road, you might spend less time on this important stuff, but you will also spend some time playing video games, meeting with friends, and maybe just laying on the couch doing nothing. So you will have more energy for the future. And once you make this decision and you stick to that decision, you will be feeling much more relieved while playing, and while working. And that's my recommendation to you. Catch yourself at the moment that you tell yourself, I have to do something, and ask yourself, what am I willing to do? And plan some time when you will be doing this activity, and then make a decision. Yes, I'm going to do this important thing, or I will put it off and I will accept the consequences of not doing this. I am fully aware that something will happen if I'm not taking any actions, but I'm taking full ownership about my decision. And you feel much more relieved on in that moment, and you will be able to complete much more in the shorter amount of time. Next, let's talk about the system. And I touched upon that in the beginning when we spoke about the planning and the system itself. So there are some people that that live by a system, and I admire those people. And I know really good architects that started the CTA journey with me, and they were able to succeed because they had a system, and they stick to the system and they pull it through. In my case, I had a system, but then I had no system. Then I had some system again, and etc., etc., etc. On some of them cases when I created a framework around me that I need to complete this and this and this in order to be successful, and then I was not able to execute on my system. I had a choice. Either I would go back to the system and then force myself to stay inside this framework, or I will focus on moving forward, however it is, however unstructured it is, however unsystematic it is, but making progress. And I decided the latter. And in my case, I saw that the system came when I put some activity into the task, into my goal. I put my activity time, and then I saw, okay, while doing this, I see that it's easier for me to have some structure in this area of my preparation. For example, for the integration part of the CTA journey requires some systematizing. It is really important. But when I tried to achieve the same with the governance part of the CTA exam in a CTA domain, I failed because there is much more experience involved, much more creative work involved, much more considerations involved. So you cannot really apply systematic or the same approach on every solution. You need to see in which phase of your life, in which phase of your preparation you are, because throughout the journey, you will have some down phase. You'll have some time when you will feel like, you need a break, or you are done with the preparation, you want to quit. Every one of you will experience that. So be mindful that moving forward is more important than executing on the system. You have to accept the loss around you, right? You have to accept that your system will need to have to be reworked, and sometimes you will work without a system, and it's normal. Continue to work is more important. The system also needs to be acceptable for you and for your type of personality. If you don't want to wake up at 5 in the morning and you want to wake up at 10 in the morning, and you hear from someone that it's wrong, but you know that it's right for you, then this is your system. Accept it, make the system work for you. Don't strive for perfection. Remember that it's not about CTA, but it's about almost everything in your life. If you try to be perfect, you might miss on being good. And in CTA exam, very important part is that your solution should not be perfect. It should not be bad. You should not do any mistakes that would compromise the overall solution end to end. But if you will strive to deliver a perfect solution, you might either run out of time, or you might miss on some areas where you might deliver just good enough solution. Try to be good enough, and then build upon that and deliver and perfectionize, but don't try to deliver perfect solution from the first go. When you learn for CTA, and it also touches upon the case of making mistakes, it's not so much about making many mistakes, but also how you learn from those mistakes. So you need to remain agile, you need to remain flexible in your mind, you need to be able to recover from mistakes and recover from setbacks quickly and move forward and forget about it. You need to remain agile, and this is more important than having just a strict system. I'll touch upon one question of what is luck and how to mine it, because a lot of time people would say that someone got lucky in CTA exam and someone got unlucky. And even so, I think that luck is a real thing. You can be unlucky and you can be hit by a bus on the day of the exam. You cannot really influence it. You need to accept it, but you can deal with this exception of the challenges around you, of agility of life, and just accept the theory of chaos that if something bad should happen on the exam day, I mean, your internet connection might be just malfunctioning one day in a year or in 2 years, and it will be on the exam day. I can promise you that. Just accept it and deal with that, right? Move forward. Your luck is also something relative, because it's relative to the things that you do in life, right? Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky. In my experience, 25% of the time in my projects, I get lucky. But most of the time, I think, okay, this could have been easier normally, but it is not, especially for me. I don't know, maybe it's a common for everyone, but for me, I think, okay, I really could be more luckier. But if you spread this luck around different projects that you do in life, then you would still experience this 25% of lucky experience. And this is to the point that if you want to do CTA badly and you just structure your life around this one project goal, you have higher chances of being unlucky, rather than if you try to do many things in life and somewhere you will be lucky and somewhere you'll be unlucky. And it might be that CTA will be your unlucky experience, but you will still mine luck in other areas. And overall, you will be more acceptable of that. You need to challenge yourself and remain curious. It's really important. You don't have to have a tunnel vision on the CTA or on any architectural or technical challenges. And especially, I spoke to a couple of my friends that said to me, well, on the exam day, something helped me, understand the business scenario that I read in the book, or I talked to a friend about during the dinner party. And you can say it was lucky that this guy got into conversation about the industry challenge during the dinner party or during the, some other experience in life. But if you would just sit behind your screen and do one thing and learn how to technically solve challenges, you might miss that opportunity to widen your focus and remain curious about new things. That is really important. And this is, just an example. This guy, Mark Benioff, you can take an example of him. He remained curious, and if you see in how many different technologies he invests, for example, lately with Slack, maybe he's not knowing at the moment when he invested in this new technology what he wants to achieve, but he sees the potential and he thinks that being a lucky guy, maybe not all the time, but some of the time, he will get really good outcome, but he needs to invest in financial services, in Health Cloud, into middleware, into Slack, etc., etc., etc. So you need to really broaden your spectrum of experiences and not stop just on perfectioning one part of your knowledge stack. Now coming to the part of the actual exam and why most people crack. And by cracking, I'm not saying that people would, just fail and quit during the exam, but they might say, okay, usually I am more successful, or usually I would deliver a better solution, but on the exam day, I was less than I delivered less than optimal solution that I could have delivered. So first and foremost is being scary of the failure is the recipe for the failure itself. Okay, so you need to check your premises. You need to check why you are doing this. You need to remember that if you do something, you are not afraid, right? You're afraid before you start something doing, but during the exam, you should not be afraid. And on the exam day itself, you should not think about the outcome because it's not in your power. It is just in the power of the judges to either give you a pass or fail you on something. And you might not even understand why you failed. And, you should not understand that at all. It might be not a lucky day, accept it. But what you need to be afraid of, or what you need to be careful about, is the feeling that when you go out of that exam, you have not delivered your best performance. That is the only thing you need to be mindful about. Another thing is apart from being afraid of the failure, the undermining the own's value is the next big thing, because some people, not even in CTA part, but think that failure would lead to, I don't know, firing from the job, and it might lead to. But even so, failure might have some negative outcome for your professional life, for your personal engagement. It should not undermine your value as an individual, because before the challenge and after the challenge, you remain an individual with the same value, and the exam outcome will not influence that. Only you can influence your value, and only you can increase this value. And you should not think that any exam would give you more credit or take away some credit for your achievements in life. Next thing is the work of worrying. Before you even start doing something, you are worried about the first two things. Being afraid of failure, being afraid of losing the credibility, of losing own value, and then you worry about those things. And then you, instead of just switching your brain off and work, and then try to deliver your best outcome, you start to worry about the outcome itself. That is something that, first of all, you cannot influence, and you already talked about, right? It's not up to you to decide if you pass or fail. It's up to someone else. The only thing you can do is just go out and perform, and that's what you should be focused on. And therefore, be mindful about if you see that you are losing energy about worrying about this, you lost sleep. Check your premises, check why you're doing this. Make an educated decision. Am I going to do this? Am I going to go out and perform, or I decide to put it off? And if you decide to do the second, then just accept the consequences fully. Lastly, there are some due diligence that you need to do before the exam day, and you need to be prepared for them, because then you will be more confident on the exam day that you will execute on them. So you need to check your physical preparation. When I started to prepare for CTA exam, I was not in good shape, but then I made it a part of my routine to exercise physically every day. And on the exam day, remember, you also need to sit for 7.5 hours straight, okay, without stretching your legs, without stretching your core, etc. You need to be also physically prepared, because mind and body is one thing, right? So be mindful of that. You need to also learn how to relax in the stressful situations, because you will have a lot of stressful situations. That's why Salesforce has a Q&A section. And on Q&A section, judges will want to try to put you under pressure, because you need to deal with pressure when you communicate with C-level. And lastly, meditation. That is something you can apply if you see that you are worrying about something and you need to let it go. So try to learn those techniques. They will stick with you throughout your career and throughout your life as well. Now, lastly, my recipe on the due day, how to achieve more, even more than you were able to on the preparation. So before I jump into it, I will tell you a bit of my own story. So when I prepared for the CTA exam, I had 6 agreed meetings with my coach. And on the day when I found out that I can have a CTA exam day 3 weeks from that day, I was on Mallorca. And up to that day, I had 4 failed CTA attempts in forms of mock exams. It was not a real attempt, but it was a mock exam with my coach, with my mentor, and I received like really suboptimal feedback, and then I tried to do another exam with my coach, and I received a partial pass from him. Like, okay, it might be a partial pass, and I had to decide if I will go for it or will not. It was 3 weeks to go. I decided to concentrate and to apply my my mindfulness technique and achieve and try to overachieve in the short amount of time. And my last mock with my coach was the most difficult mock that he had in his stack, in his scenarios, and I was able to pass them. And then I was able to pass the exam. And really, on the exam day, I think I did well, because I felt that after my presentation, at the Q&A section, I did have to answer a couple of challenges, but there was no major thing that I got asked or I needed to change. So I was able to pass during the presentation and during the preparation. Though this 3.5-4 hours were crucial for me. And I applied a couple of techniques how to achieve that. So first of all, again, not focusing on failure is a major shift. And it's easy to say that, I will not focus on failure, I will focus on success. But it took me around 10 years in my sport life to switch from being afraid to miss the target in archery to being glad or being happy from hitting the gold, hitting the tens, and absorbing that happy feeling and taking that happy feeling from my training and from my tournaments, rather than focusing on being afraid to deliver less than optimal performance. Once you apply that, you need to really still train yourself on being motivated by success and seeing success as your motivation and not the failure, because failure needs to be just put out of the equation during the preparation, during this 1.5 years. Okay. Then second, again, your goal is to grow during the journey, however it goes. Not focus on failure, not focus on the outcome, but just your unique experience. You need to feel blessed almost by being part of the journey, by being part of the community, by being part of the group, and by being also able to help others. And it's your unique experience. If you're not feeling comfortable, or if you're feeling that it's too hard for you, then you should not really start this journey, because journey does not end on achieving the CTA exam. Then lastly, you need to deal with setbacks and failures. And I had hard time really this first 4 mocks that I failed with my mentor. After some of the mocks, I took just 2 weeks off. I didn't really prepare anything else, because I just need to absorb the failure, understand that it happened, and then try to move forward. But with every failure, I got more knowledgeable that, okay, that is a feedback. Yes, I failed. Yes, I could have done better. Yes, I knew that, but I didn't say that. So my mentor failed me on that rightly. And once I accepted that as a feedback, that if someone would criticize your solution, it's just the feedback. And only you can say if you failed or not, no external person, then it was easier for me to recover. And then after every failed attempt, or after every failed presentation, I recovered faster and faster and faster. So I was able to absorb that knowledge more quickly. Then on the exam day, it is bit different. So you cannot apply the same motivation that you had during the preparation. First of all, you have to forget what happened before, right? What happened, happened. You might have failed all the exam mocks. And I know one CTA that he failed all of his trial mocks, and then he passed the CTA, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? It doesn't count how good or how bad you was before the exam. You need to be present and you need to try to deliver your best outcome. Then think about how to get every bit of efficiency you can. Think about almost you need to function on the level of your instincts. As much of instincts as you can, as fast as you can. Being a CTA exam, being in a CTA exam, or being in a sport, it's important that you don't control the flow with your mind, but rather focus your mind on some problem and let your body execute the exact dance, exact movements that you learned during the preparation, and let your decisions be really on the subconscious level. And it's interesting, if you try to talk with some of the CTA judges on your 601 or 602 preparation, and you ask them some questions about the technical solutions, you will immediately get a response from them. Why immediately? Because they learn it subconsciously, that this is the way it should be. They don't question it anymore because they know that it's right. They support it by personal experience, but a lot of things they still kind of have that in their DNA. And most important part is when you are in the exam, you should not be afraid. It's your day. It's your personal experience. It will not be repeated. You need to go there and get as much as possible of your personal experience. You need to fight if you feel to fight, but you also have to have fun. You know, as strangely as it sounds, after that exam, you will have a chance to recuperate, but you don't want to have a bad feeling about that exam. You don't want to think, oh, yes, I got afraid and I was not efficient on time. I could have done better. Then you will have a memory of some event in your life that was not executed to your likeness. And on the other hand, when I approached that, I didn't know the scenario. You know, I got that quite challenging scenario, and I didn't know if I will be able to tackle it at the beginning. And I was really worried. I was really worried about the length of the scenario, about the timing. It was really, you know, all not in my favor as I thought before the due date. But once I started to solution, I got in the flow, and I was able to execute on timing better than in any of the presentation I had before, because I just switched off the part of my mind that would tell me, okay, it's time to get some chips, or it's time to, you know, you worked enough, 2 hours, now get some rest. When you don't see it as an option, resting, fooling around, you just execute on, you know, and you have this one feeling with your mind and body that it's one flow. 4 hours will pass really quickly, and after this full 7 hours, you'll have a memorable feeling that, okay, you don't know if you passed or failed, but you know that it was really great experience, and you can go and enjoy some beer, you can go enjoy some food, being satisfied. And that's the most important feeling that you need to get out of the exam. And that's what I wish to you after you will finish your CTA exam. So in the summary, my takeaways for you: create a safe environment that you will be able to make mistakes in during your preparation. Secondly, accept the procrastination. It is normal. Find the reasons why you procrastinate and deal with the reasons, not with procrastination as a process. Don't fight yourself to do something. Fight the reasons why you're not doing this. Choose a system that works for you. You don't have to stick to any of the systems that are out there. Don't be afraid to tweak existing system to your likeness. It's part of the game. You need to find some mechanism in your brain that would function best if you apply some rules, some system, but it should be your system, and you will take this this experience with you for the future. This is probably for me the most important outcome. I know how I function. I know how to motivate myself. So I'm looking for new challenges, knowing that I will be able to deal with the pressure and to have a system that will work for me. You need to focus on positive experience on the due day, and again, giving up is not an option. Not during the preparation, not during the exam. You need to be yourself. You need to deliver your best outcome, but don't give up on yourself. Okay, you might fail, but again, failure is just part of the game. You would get up and try again. You are not in control of passing or failing, but you are in control how many times you try and if you will give up or not. Lastly, the resources that I used for my journey and for some of the things in this presentation, there are just really two things. From Neil Fiore, The Now Habit is a book that I discovered for myself long ago, like 10 years ago. But applying some of the techniques from this book helped me to grow personally. And this is just a short one, I think 2 minutes video from Bryan Cranston, who is a great actor, on how to perform better for the junior actors. And I think it will be also beneficial for you to see it and maybe apply the same powerful technique on the due day. Thank you for your time. And I hope this presentation will help you to pass CTA journey, or just be in the CTA journey, and also in main challenges throughout your life.